Hello, everybody. Welcome to Most Wanted Topics. I'm your host, Kevin the Tank. Along with me, Atomic Tommy per use. How you doing, Atomic Tommy?
Doing great, man. Awesome. It had been a great weekend.
You know, it was a great, busy weekend. As you know, we had Buff Bagwell, WCW. Boy, I tell you what, he was above expectations.
Yep.
He was fantastic. Heck of a guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Great stories. He was super nice to all the fans. You know what? He was atop the list of top guests. I mean, he's up there with being a great guest. He talked to the fans.
He did. I mean, he was just so nice. I mean, not enough time for all the nice things to say about Buff Bagwell. I mean, he was pleasant with everybody. I mean, everybody who came through the door, it was special. Everybody got time. It was a great turnout. He had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. It was just a great signing all around, and it's why we do them. It's why we do them.
Everybody got a great life experience meeting him. I tell you what, and it was such fun because he was in the prime of the Nitro Wars when it was Nitro versus Raw, and it was must-see TV back then on Monday night.
Yeah.
You watched Monday Nitro, you watched Raw, you watched the competing organizations go at it, and the NWO was the best thing going on at the time, and he was a big part of that. He was the guy. He was in a lot of matches. He had funny skits in the shop area where people were waiting in line to meet Buff.
Yeah,
we had some of his highlights going, some of his matches, and some of his funnier interviews. And so, boy, it was great. His Buff and he's the stuff. They were great gimmicks back then.
Yeah, they really were.
And his show was
great stories.
He just had a great persona about him. He had great charisma. And, boy, the people that came to meet him had a great time. And, boy, just nothing but positive things to say. So, Marcus Buff Bagwell, thank you for coming to Most Wanted Comics. Thank you for just adding to the enjoyment of the Nitro years that we all watched and helping us just enjoy that nostalgia. It was great. You did a great job, so thank you very much. Marcus Buff Bagwell. And another announcement.
Yeah.
Speaking of wrestling, March 22nd, the Rock and Roll Express will be at Most Wanted Comics. More details to come on the website, so make sure you follow Facebook and the website, mostwantedcomics.com, for the details coming soon on Rock and Roll Express, coming to Most Wanted Comics, March 22nd. What a busy March. And let's not forget about what's coming up this weekend. Oh, my gosh, March 1st.
March 1st.
The great Doug Mankey, Tom Nguyen, Keith Champagne. Excellent lineup of guests. These three are must-see. This is the first, basically, appearance for the as we get started to convention season.
Yep. This is their first appearance of the year. And
it is my understanding that they are releasing an exclusive print. I shouldn't say exclusive to us, but this is the print for convention season that they're going to release. That's going to be available at the conventions, and you can get it first at Most Wanted Comics on March 1st. Dropping a new print for convention season, and it's going to be available at Most Wanted Comics March 1st, so be there. 10 a.m. is the start time to the event, and boy, it's going to be a lot of fun. And you want to get some autographs, pricing will be set by the artists for autographs, and we'll have all that signage up all
pricing for commission sketches, anything
for anything they want to do.
Anything they want to do is set by them.
It'll be posted at the store and online as soon as we get that knocked out. So so March 1st, make sure you're there. March 22nd, put on your calendars. There's a lot going on in Most Wanted Comics.
There really is. We don't stop.
We don't stop. We keep going. I tell you what, Atomic Tommy, we have a lot to talk about. You saw the movie Captain America, and we are all looking forward to that review. We have to talk about that. So I'm going to let you take away the review of Captain America. Go.
Yeah, well, we got to reel it back. I know we're excited. We got to reel it back because we got to talk about comics first. Comics, obviously, we can't forget about our new releases. Now I'm going to dial that back. Because with Buff, I didn't have time to read anything. So there is no review of anything that came out last week. I did page through Ultimate Wolverine #2. It is in my list to read as soon as I can. But the art looks great in that book. If you can still get a copy just for the art alone, big fan. I was a big fan of #1. I'm sure #2 will even be even better. But we're just going to skip right ahead to what's coming up this week. Just because, again, I don't really have anything to say about last week's books. I do apologize for that. I know people look forward to that. But sometimes it happens. You know, we had a busy week. Anyway, coming up here this week, we got 2 books to talk about. One, Red Hulk #1, will tie nicely into our Captain America discussion here in 1 second. But Red Hulk, new series, new drop. The cover looks cool. We got a poster and that looks pretty cool. So I do have some hopes, but you never know. The other book I want to mention, bit of a deep cut, Radiant Black returns. Some of you out there may not know about Radiant Black. It is I should really say was a fairly popular Image title, but it stopped for a while. Radiant Black ended, it stopped, and now they're coming back, number 31, continuing the series. And I say it's kind of a deep cut because it has its fans, it has its following, but it's not huge. You know, it's no Invincible, it's no Walking Dead, right? It's just kind of there. It's always been there, always been steady. There is a fandom for Radiant Black, and I am sure they are excited to see its return.
Cool, yeah. Everybody seems to be looking forward to that book, but let's get to what we're all anxious for. Yeah. Let's get to that review of Captain America.
Yeah, so it's time to talk about Hulk 2. Oh, I'm sorry. I misspoke there. Captain America Brave New World. That's my bad. Spoilers for the movie. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it has been out for a week, but I know, so there's your spoiler warning. Captain America Brave New World. Just out of 10 to start. 7 out of 10, man. Not a bad film. Enjoyable. Fun to watch. Interesting plot. Kind of a nice political drama kind of worked in here with the adamantium and how they worked that into like Celestial Island, right? Not just a fun film. The action was surprisingly good. It was a lot better than I expected it would be. It was compelling. It was fun to watch. It keeps you invested. I heard a lot of people say that the movie was kind of a slow burn. And at the beginning it was kind of slow, but there's enough action spread throughout this film beyond the first 20 minutes to really keep you going. I mean, you really go, once you get past that opening, you're going boom, 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 boom. You're going from like, oh, here they go. They're fighting. They're going after Isaiah Bradley to, oh, here we go. Now they're fighting off these guys who work for like the leader. Now, oop, here we go. Now they're flying over, fighting, Japan and U.S. forces. And then, oh, here we go. Now they're fighting the Red Hulk. So you're going from you're moving through it. It moves quick. And I like that. It's just fun. It was a fun film. That's really all I can say about it. It wasn't anything special, right? It wasn't breaking any new ground. There's a lot of people out there who said it was very middle of the road Marvel movie, and I agree with that. It's not doing anything drastic, character wise or narratively, but it was just a fun watch.
But again, do they need to break new ground every single movie? I think this movie is just another one like a Star Wars is trying to do. They need to get back to saving face and making movies enjoyable again, and not ramming political crap down our throats.
They do, and
so just an enjoyable movie that has action in it, and that's what everybody loves is comic book action. So a 7 out of 10 is not a bad score. It doesn't need to be a 10 out of 10. It's just as long as you can't say, boy, it was unwatchable. Like a couple of those last movies were unwatchable.
Yeah, and that's the biggest compliment I can give this is I was never bored. I mean, while I was watching the Marvels or even like Thor, Love and Thunder or even the shows like She-Hulk, I was bored the whole way through. It was a chore. It was not a chore to get through this movie. It was a fun watch. Now, though, let's talk about a few things I didn't like. Okay, the reason why it's a 7 out of 10. The biggest thing for me was there was almost a little too much Hulk sequel. Okay, 80% of this movie is a Hulk sequel. And you know what? The Hulk film was fine. I think it's overhated a little bit. Nothing great, but nothing awful, right? And it's just one of those things where did it deserve a follow-up? Yes. But this movie this movie was a Hulk sequel. I mean, from Red Hulk, which was all in the marketing, to the leader being a main villain, to Betty Ross showing up again. It was a Hulk movie, a follow-up without the Hulk. And it almost kind of took away from some of the Captain America and took some opportunities away from potential Captain America follow-ups. One of the things I wanted to see in this movie going in was a little bit more follow-up to like Falcon and the Winter Soldier than we got. I think it would have been really cool to get some sort of follow-up to Sharon's story with the power broker, what happened to the super soldier serum, right? I understand that Bucky is going to be in Thunderbolts, but it really would have been nice to see him have a little bit more than a 5-second cameo in this show, in this movie, given the relationship they had in the show, right? And his cameo was cool. It was nice that he was there. I don't love the fact that he's a congressman, but that's whatever, I guess. But yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more follow-up to some previously set up Captain America threads rather than focusing solely on Hulk. It was nice to see the Celestial Island and the adamantium stuff, but I feel like that was clearly just in there to be in there. You know what I mean? I mean, it played a relatively small role in the story. I mean, the adamantium MacGuffin thing that they kind of work in the beginning could have been anything, right? I mean, it really, they could have made it anything. So they could have made it the super soldier serum, a vial from that. They could have found a different way. They could have rewritten it completely. It could have been anything, but the adamantium was cool. But again, felt like it didn't really need to be there all that much. But at the end of the day, again, I don't want to nitpick it too much. I don't want to be too harsh on it. I think there's enough of that negativity about the movie going around that I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's not a movie that you take overly seriously, even though there are moments, especially in the middle of a film, when it becomes that political drama between the United States and Japan and all that stuff. You not really supposed to take it too seriously. It's not going to break any new ground for you. It's not going to, revolutionize the Marvel films, but it was enjoyable. And these days, that's really all you can hope for.
Do you think that the hate on it is being deserved? I mean, I know the preliminary before the movie came out didn't help when he said, the value statement and everything, that didn't help. But as far as the movie itself, did you feel it deserves the hate that it was getting online? Or do you think, from what I gather, it just needed to be good, and that's what we got out of it. It was good, but it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was good. I'm going to go see it, so I'll judge it for myself when I see it. But as far as your take goes, do you think it deserves the negative criticism that it's getting?
There was a lot of people who, A, didn't care about the movie or just don't care about Marvel anymore and just kind of want it to fail. There's a lot of people who wanted this movie, and really any Marvel movie to fail, especially this movie, given that it was a Captain America movie with Sam Wilson, right? I mean, not everybody likes Sam Wilson's Captain America. I thought it was fine. I thought he did a good job. Anthony Mackie, I thought, was great. He definitely felt like Captain America watching the movie. I thought it was great. But there was a lot of people who wanted it to fail just out of that. There was a lot of people who weren't excited for it, and that worked its way into the review and into their perception. They weren't looking forward to going in, so they didn't enjoy it while they were watching it because they just mentally didn't want to. And honestly, there's a lot of people, like, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes critics score, which is kind of a joke, but if you kind of read what they're saying, a lot of them don't really understand like the Easter eggs from Hulk, and they don't understand it because they probably don't either remember it or they didn't watch it, which I think is another big factor as to why so many people were maybe not huge fans of this, because they don't really remember or understand what's being referenced or what's being drawn from.
And what people have to remember is that you got to remember that they're having to make movies for people that have never read the comics either.
Yeah.
So they're trying to do a happy medium between the people that read the comics, that want accuracy, just like the Star Wars fans, to the people that haven't read, that just want to be entertained, that love superhero movies. And now in the comics, I got news for you people. Sam Wilson becomes Captain America in the comics, okay? Now, how Captain America transformed into an old man was different. In the movies, they had the time lapse, and then he spent time. You got the drill from there. In the comic books, he was hit with a serum, and it made him an old man. And then Sam Wilson picked up, and that's when Sam Wilson picked up the Captain America title, and Captain America was Sam Wilson. Now, the problem with that series was that was in the height of the political, and they had Sam Wilson fighting Americans, and people just got a bad vibe because Captain America is not supposed to be fighting Americans. So
that's true, yeah.
And it was very political, and it just turned a lot of people off. Now, that being said, here the movies have been good, and the show was good with Sam Wilson being Captain America. And what it sounds like this has been good is Captain America still wielding the shield and doing a good job upholding Captain America. So, and I'm assuming they'll leave room too if Steve Rogers decides to come back.
Yeah.
Because now in the comics, Steve Rogers comes back.
Yeah.
So maybe they left it open. Who knows? But just so people know, I mean, Sam Wilson did become Captain America. So if they're unhappy about that, you got to read the comics, and you may not be happy with that the comics made Sam Wilson Captain America, but it happened.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
And another thing on the Steve Rogers thing, again in the comics, Steve Rogers comes back. So a lot of times in comics, what you get with a character introduction or a rework like that is you'll end up eventually having both versions of characters you like. Take for example Peter Parker, Spider, Miles Morales. You have both. Both are there. So Captain America, both are there. In the movie, what I was honestly kind of disappointed on was they didn't actually follow up as to what happened to Steve Rogers post Endgame. That was something they didn't do in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They had this kind of running gag where like he's on the moon. Well, we know that's kind of not true. And I was really hoping in this movie they would follow up on that and actually explain what happened to Steve Rogers, because he didn't die. He's not dead. He's alive. He's somewhere. And they didn't follow that up. And I feel like probably would have been a good idea. Another thing before we wrap up the review on Cap is about the Red Hulk thing. Some people are criticizing that the Red Hulk thing was advertised was only 7 minutes of the movie. Yes and no. If you're going to sit here and tell me that the Red Hulk thing was only 7 minutes of the movie, the Red Hulk thing was kind of the whole buildup. They were building up to that Red Hulk scene from pretty much the first time we saw Thunderbolt Ross. Like the whole movie was building up to that, and it was an earned payoff, and it was good like that was a good sequence when Cap is fighting Red Hulk like that was a good action sequence. That was fun, and the ending of it really solidified an arc for Ross, which I thought was pretty good. Harrison Ford did a great job in that movie. So anyway, Captain America 7 out of 10, enjoyable film, recommended if you're looking for something fun to watch. Any closing thoughts on that before
you heard
we
it
move
right
on?
here? Atomic Tommy gave it 7 out of 10, so that means it's worth the view, people.
It is worth the view. Now, one quick thing before we wrap up this week, too. I want to talk briefly, once again, about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. If you go back a month, we talked about this right after the first 2 episodes dropped. The first week it was on, we talked about it. I was on record, you can go back, not liking the first 2 episodes very much. And I still don't. I mean, they were slow. I really was not a fan of how they really introduced some of these characters and how they started the show. Like, it was just kind of boring, and I wasn't a huge fan of some of the changes made to, like, the lore.
Or the animation itself.
And the animation was another big thing. I really didn't like it. And as you go, I watched the whole series. I'm going to talk about it here in a second. You never really get used to the animation. You kind of accept it and you watch it, but I never got used to it. I never ended up enjoying it. I still think that's probably the show's biggest deterrent and biggest issue is in the animation. However, after watching the whole show, I can now take my words back. I remember if you go back and watch what I said there's a possibility that I come up here when the show's done and I say that it got better and, walk it back a little bit, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today. The show did get better. It followed up those first 2 mid to lower, not as good episodes with a decent season, a decent wrap-up, and an all-around decent representation and adaptation of Spider-Man in a cartoon. Definitely not the worst animated Spider-Man show. Far from it. Everything they did with Tombstone was really good. Even some of the moments with Spider-Man really reflecting on the inner sort of mentality and ideology was really nice. Not all of it. Some of the stuff with Norman and Harry Osborn, some of that I think got a little weird. Like with great power comes great respect. That was kind of weird. What they did with Uncle Ben, making him alive, was definitely a choice of all time. But overall, Tombstone was the highlight. It ended up being a pretty decent Spider-Man story. And the villains were cool. Scorpion was cool, right? Doc Ock was cool. How they worked in what like Marvel events like Civil War as we know them into the show's timeline was really cool. I'll talk briefly about also the time loop paradox thing they worked in at the end. That was weird. If you guys know me, you'll know I'm a big fan of The Flash CW television show. I went 9 years of trying to understand that stuff, and you don't really succeed. So I'm not going to sit here and try to understand the paradox time loop Spider-Man thing. Again, I think that was kind of a strange choice, but at the end of the day, the show got better. It's a decent watch. I'm going to go ahead and give that a 6.5 out of 10. Not quite as enjoyable, I think, as Captain America. Not the best Spider-Man show, not the worst Spider-Man show. The animation still stuck. Some, again, questionable choices made, but Tombstone was great. Spider-Man was pretty good, and the story and villains were all around not bad. So give that a watch, too. Let me know what you think about either Captain America or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and let us know.
I'm going to be at a 3 on Spider-Man, and I'm not going to finish watching the season.
Yep, that's fine. That's a lot of people. And again, those first few episodes really are not a strong showing. And a thing on that, if you're going to be a show with 8 episodes, 7, 8, 9 episodes, you got to come out of the gate swinging. You can't rely on everybody sticking around. So anyway, but again, it did get better. So
all right, we had that. Great takes.
Thank you.
You know what? Those good reviews. We got what we needed. So, yeah, with that, you know what it's time for?
It's Shoutouts.
It's time for Shoutouts. All right. Shoutouts go to Matt, JD, always. Thanks for always being there for us. Thanks for your help this weekend, too, with Buff and the stuff. Dan, the Amazing Spider-Man fan, we thank you. Dean, we want to thank you. Jay, thank you. Jimmy D'Souza, as always, thank you. Hey, you got the midweek show coming out.
We did. We filmed that today, actually. Hopefully releasing within the next week or two.
A new series for you with not only are we going to do the taste testing with you, you're doing now Comic Talk.
Comic Talk. That
Comic
name,
Talk with Tommy.
That name, it can be changed if anybody has any better suggestions, but we're going to try and do, again, just some more midweek stuff, more than just the weekly podcast. This is a little bit different format. Yeah, a little bit different format, talking about one specific topic. And
watch out for Moments with the Mafu coming and also.
Watch out for that, yeah.
So Caleb, shout out to you. David, shout out to you, brother. We'll see you next time at the shop. Mark, Brian, Ryan, Brian, Jeff, Liz, Sheila, of course, Eli, Jamie, shout out to you. Pat, Sydney, Gossovich family, of course, Shanice, Larry, Rick, Melissa, and Rich. We want to give you a shout out this week, Rich. And Jim, shout out to you. Another Jim. No, man, there's so many.
We got people adding their names. People want shout outs.
People want shout outs. What can we say? So we added Jim to the list too. So with that, the shout outs are done for this week. Look forward to the midweek show with Comic Talk with Tommy. And we will see you next week, everybody.